What's up, you guys? It's your boy Divij. Welcome back to the Divij is Down podcast, man. We got a very special episode. Honestly, I don't even think I need to fucking intro this guy. This one is probably the favorite one that I've been excited for. So, fuck the intro. We got fucking OG Jared from FBoy Island in the building, baby. Let's go. What up, bro?
What's going on, y'all? How you doing?
How you living?
I'm living good, man. How about you?
Life is good, man. Life is
That's
fucking
what I like to
good.
hear. That's what I like to hear.
I'm getting straight into it, bro.
Cool.
How did you end up on FBoy Island? How the fuck did this happen?
Man, I was looking for an adventurous situation.
Yeah.
One thing is for sure is I think with life, I think that life is a series of trials that are meant to teach you lessons, right?
Yeah.
And one thing I was thinking about, I was pondering within myself, I figured I said, I'm a soul searcher, right?
Yeah.
So I'm always looking deeper inside myself. I'm always trying to take accountability. I'm always trying to self-reflect.
Sure.
And when you are somebody that is always doing that, you're constantly learning lessons, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so life will always be bringing you obstacles. Life will always be bringing you situations that are going to make you learn and make you evolve and bring you to the person that you're ultimately meant to be. And I feel as though the universe brought me this situation to help me evolve. Because one thing I knew about this show is, one thing I always say about myself is, I'm imperfectly perfect.
For sure.
The flaws, all of that, that creates who I am. And I know
Of
that.
course.
So someone who's seeking more self-awareness and self-realization, I figured, okay, put me in this uncomfortable situation, somewhere I've never been before.
Of course.
A situation that's going to help me expand. And I think that's just what it has allowed me to do.
Sure. Yeah, comfort kills growth, as they say. So, I mean, there's nothing more uncomfortable than going on an island for fucking 2 months. No phone, no access to anything. You're completely disconnected. Sometimes I forget I was on this shit too. But this shit is crazy. So, okay, bro. So we get there. Obviously, it's a very crazy situation. You got hella guys, 3 girls.
Yep.
First day we're filming, we're at the villa. Who catches your eye first?
Nakia, as we know, always caught my eye.
Always caught your eye. Yeah.
She always caught my eye. Her gravitas, her guile, the way she carries herself. I'm somebody who I'm an empath, as we say.
Sure.
So when I look at people, it takes very little for me to figure out the essence of that human being. And when she came out like that, I was
felt it.
It's her.
Interesting.
For me, it's her.
Interesting. But I remember after the water balloon fight, you got picked by Sarah, right, for the first date?
I did.
So were you leaning towards Sarah initially, or was that just kind of how it, unraveled?
That's kind of how it unraveled.
Okay.
Me and Sarah is mad cool.
Yeah, she is.
Like she's really a cool human being. And I think that me and her connect on like a friend level.
Sure.
So it was cool, chopping it up with her.
Sure,
but I guess I really think if you look at it, we just talked about like conspiracies and stuff like this. So it was never romantic type deal.
She's got a very weird side to her. And you're funny enough, bro. Like, I didn't get much time with you on the island. We had maybe 1 or 2 conversations. Obviously the reunion, which a lot of stuff they didn't show. But you and I have connected after the fact, and I feel like you're one of the most interesting humans like I've ever fucking met. Like, I feel like you have a lot of different qualities that you don't see in a lot of guys. So it's very interesting to see that. So obviously you kind of lean towards Nakia, and then I think you got one of the first dates with Nakia.
Yes, and let me ask you the same question.
Go.
Who caught your eye initially?
I was looking at Nikki Glazer the whole time, bro. I'm being real.
Yeah.
No, I mean, Nikki's obviously gorgeous, but I'd say CJ. Funny enough, she's the one who cut my throat, but yeah, I think it was CJ.
What is it about her? Because that's really an interesting question. It's like, what is it about that first initial sight?
Yeah. I think there's 2 things. It's the way they walked out,
mm-hmm.
and then secondly, it's how they look, right? Obviously, all 3 of them are beautiful, but I think the way that CJ kind of carried herself with that, like, the attitude kind of thing, and they all had attitude, but, Sarah, you could tell she was timid.
Yep.
But CJ, I like that, like, alpha presence, but didn't work out for me too well.
I think with Nakia, you can see the depth of her emotion, or I felt like I could when I initially saw her. It's like you could see you could see the essence in her. Like you could see it, you know? I don't know if that's just because I'm an empath.
Sure.
But yeah, that's, you know.
So when she walked out, because she walked out with some attitude, like she was, she came out hot. So you feel like you saw that in her from the first sight?
Yeah.
That's crazy. So how was the first date with Nakia? What did that go like?
It was so fun. Like I really wanted to drive the jet ski, and she just wouldn't let me. And the cool thing about Nakia is she's so like passionate and fierce, and she's somebody who's going to think for herself in any situation. She really truly is a queen. So like,
for sure,
I was like, nah. Like we had like kind of like a fun little argument about like, nah, I'm gonna drive you. Nah, I'm gonna drive.
Right.
And then she told me a little bit about what she's been through. And there's a reason why she wanted to drive, so she could feel a little bit more comfortable.
Sure.
And that's one thing you have to understand about people is it's like your experiences up until the present, right? You're meeting somebody.
Yeah.
That serves as a lot of the reason why they are who they are, and they do what they do, and they feel what they feel.
For sure.
So knowing Nakia, she's been in a car accident before. So when she told me that, and she insisted on driving, I'm thinking to myself, okay,
it's a comfort thing.
It's a comfort thing. It's a comfort thing.
Right.
And my job in that situation is to make her feel comfortable.
100%.
And to be honest, like, that jet ski was a nice jet ski. Like that thing, the waves were glass at that point. And if it were me, I would have pushed it. And I'm really thankful that I wasn't driving in that moment, because we got a chance to sit and just talk. If it were me, I would have having fun.
Wild. Yeah.
But that gave us an opportunity to really chop it up and talk, get to know each other, I got to know about her family, her sister, and some things. And so low-key, I'm thankful for that.
It's very interesting, bro, because I feel like most of us guys, like if I went on that jet ski date, I'd be in my head thinking like, I got to impress her. I got to show her my wild side. But I feel like your approach, and this is why I think you're so interesting, is because you're not looking at it from, at least I don't see you as you're looking at it from your lens. You're looking at what's her perception of right now, and then let me like adapt to that perception and make sure that she's prioritized. Is that kind of how you approach things?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, it's when you are on your first date, you don't know the person yet.
True.
So
it's true.
As much as I wanted to show my wild side, when I got to know her, like I said, I started taking into consideration the fact that, okay, she's not going to feel comfortable if I drive, so let me back off and whatever. Yeah. You feel me? So yeah, I mean, yeah. That's
interesting. So I feel like, obviously, let's just get into it, bro. Like you had issues with Collin, obviously. Mm-hmm. I think at first I think it was episode 1 actually, when he came back after the date, he was tight because he thought someone was someone was being a snake, and he thought it was GP, but he pulled you into the room right initially. So was that did he find comfort in you? Was that what that situation was initially?
I always thought Collin was cool. We're both from the Midwest.
Yeah.
And he reminds me of like some of my friends back home. So when I saw him, I'm like, oh yeah,
what up?
Like, we cool, like, you know what I'm saying?
For sure.
And he was like one of the first dudes that I really started creating like a friendship bond with. And I felt as though I could put my trust in him, he could put his trust in me, and he also knows I'm an empath. So he also knows that I see a little bit deeper than the surface level of reality a little bit. I could see into people's true nature and things of this and things of this nature. And so when he pulled me in, I think that's basically what it was. I think he saw that I have insight on people, and so he figured, well, why don't I pull this dude aside and see if he can tell who may have been the snitch in the mall.
Yeah. Who did you think it was initially? Did you have any inclination as to it being fucking Chris or someone else?
I really thought it was Chris. I'm not. I'm not gonna hold you.
He fucking looks like a snake. Fucking snake ass.
Yeah. I felt as though it was Chris, but I mean, I did think he had a good reason to believe it was Garrett Powers based on how things initially went. But that was my inclination that it was Chris.
Yeah, GP fucked up. He fucked up.
He did.
So where did the relationship with Collin kind of go south? Like, because I feel like he found trust in you, and then all of a sudden, by mansplaining episode 8 or 9, he's shitting on you heavy.
Yeah.
So where did it go? Where did it go wrong?
It's a weird experience because we were around the guys just as much, almost if not more, than the girls.
More.
So
yeah,
we're every day around each other. We're naturally creating bonds.
Yeah.
But when you're going for the same girl,
it gets weird.
Once you get that emotional attachment to the girl, you don't want to see anybody else talking to her.
No.
You really don't. And I think that's once we started spending more time with her, we started thinking, I'm seeing myself with her in the real world. Yeah. At this point, I got my fairy tale imagination going. Like, sure. I'm like, yeah, we're going to walk out of here together. Like, is white picket fence.
Yeah.
And then meanwhile, I'm seeing
Collin macking it with her.
So yeah, sure. I think it's a natural thing, man. Like it only makes sense, right?
Right. But I feel like it wasn't just Collin. Like at some point it was everybody.
Yep.
Was like by mansplain, even I was fucking coming at you. I don't even fucking know you. Like
yeah.
So why do you think you had such a big target on your back? Was it people were threatened by you? Was it, what was it?
That's a good question. I think that is for me to answer that question, just for me to say what other people are feeling, that's a tough one. But
sure.
I do think when you're talking about love, right? Here's the thing: is you can only know somebody else at the level that you know yourself, right?
Sure.
And I would have to say I know myself very, very well. I've spent a lot of time alone. I've spent a lot of time soul searching. I'm constantly trying to take accountability for who I am, my own actions, what I feel. And I look at things like, okay, I kind of try to break things down like, okay, this is what I feel in this moment. This is where it comes from. I'm looking at like how I feel, and then I'm looking at like my childhood basically, because between the ages 1 and 7 is when you develop the strategies to feel loved, to feel nurtured, to feel safe, to feel significant. And so that inner child, all the data and information that you're taking in from the external realm, you're taking it into the internal realm as stimulus, and then your inner child is projecting its version of what you're deeming reality to be. And so that's what I'm constantly trying to do.
Interesting.
So though I'm not perfect, you know what I'm saying? I'm somebody who really tries to learn from the situation I've been through. And I think with the whole love thing, not everybody is at the place where they can tap into that emotion and tap into their own feeling.
Sure.
As quickly as perhaps I can. And this is what I suspect.
Sure.
So when I go out and say, I'm falling for you, from their perspective, they're like, no way, how could he? It's too soon.
Right.
He doesn't know her. And I'm saying, and what I feel is though, I feel like maybe they looked at that and they said, okay, he's not being genuine. And they're looking from their own perspective of what they have the capacity to feel at that time. And I think their capacity to feel maybe isn't at the same point as mine. And so I think they maybe thought that was a divisive and manipulative maneuver. But when really, actually, that wasn't the first time that I told her that I was falling for her.
At elimination?
Yeah, they're saying that your back was against the wall. And so therefore you did it as a divisive maneuver.
Right.
But I had told her
prior to. Interesting.
And
they didn't show that on camera, did they?
No, that wasn't shown.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I like I said, I constantly talk about working on myself.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't go without saying is like, everybody is at a different point with their mental health. You know?
Sure.
And so I think it's just worth saying that mental health is like for men we're supposed to act like everything's okay all the time.
All good, all Gucci.
We're supposed to act like we so hard.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Be masculine.
Yeah.
Nothing hurts.
Right.
You're not supposed to feel.
Not being vulnerable.
And
for sure.
It's a tough world out here, man.
It's not realistic.
It's not realistic.
It's not.
So I think yeah, man, I don't really know where I want to go with that, but I just want to say, like, I think it's okay to feel. I think it's okay to feel.
Yeah. Do you think, I have a couple questions. Where did it sounds like what you're talking about is self-awareness, because in order to be vulnerable, in order to feel certain emotions, you have to kind of know how you feel, why you feel that way, yada, yada. Where does that self-awareness come from? Is it the way you were brought up? Is it, again, the experiences? Is it trauma from the past, or a combination of everything? Like, where does that come from for you?
One thing I know is I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah.
And as smart as I believe I am, I know that there's always someone smarter. As self-aware as I believe I am, I know there's always another level of self-awareness. For sure. And so I think as long as you hedge your perspective and always understand that, even though you know what it is? You ever get in an argument with somebody, right? And you two have both different perspectives.
Sure.
And you're thinking to yourself, you're like, man, how could she not see my perspective? How could he not see my perspective?
Yeah.
And they're thinking to themselves the same thing. And if you stop for a second, you're going to realize, like, okay, so both of you guys believe that you're right, right?
Right.
So I think that awareness is
sure.
like one of the easiest ways to tap into the fact that, like, there's always a broader awareness to be found. Like, going head to head with people.
Yeah.
It's kind of taught me, like, that there's more to, like, there's always more than what you feel. And I think that, like, when I look at myself and stuff like this, I'd be like, how could they not feel me?
Yeah.
How could they not? Whatever.
Right.
And after a while of doing that, I started like getting a more broader awareness from that type of thinking.
Sure.
Because I'm like, well, I don't feel them, they don't feel me. There's obviously more opinions to have.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So you think conflict in your past has helped you, like, going head to head with people, experiencing that kind of situation has led to your self-awareness growth?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
I think so.
Okay. So,
and I'm still working on it.
So yeah, I think we all are, bro. For sure. Like, it's crazy, bro. Like, I feel like after the show, like, I really learned, like, the importance of vulnerability, especially to achieve intimacy with a woman. And I feel like after watching the show, I would watch scenes with you and Nakia and Garrett and Sarah. I'm like, I don't know about that, if it was real intimacy or not. But even with you, Jared, and CJ, but more so you and Nakia, I feel like the intimacy that you guys had was beyond what anybody else had on the show. And from my perspective, it was like, that's why he fucking won. It was because he was vulnerable. It's because he's self-aware and he was able to achieve intimacy.
I practice vulnerability.
How do you?
How
do you practice it?
Just be vulnerable. I mean,
just do it,
yeah, you gotta.
Sure.
I remember when I told one of the producers one time. I said, yo, I'm falling in love with this girl, and it scares the shit out of me. And she said, Naisha said this. She said, be afraid and do it anyways. And it's so simple, but that's one of the greatest lessons that I've gotten as far as, like, vulnerability is scary.
It is.
I stood up there and they asked me, why are you an F-boy? I sat there and I thought to myself, I was like, probably because I have abandonment issues from being adopted. And in that moment, was I scared?
That's not what you said. Did you say that?
Yeah, that's what I said.
You said that. Okay.
Yep. And was I didn't want to put my, like, you don't want to give people the ammo to shoot you down.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like, if you never cross that threshold of vulnerability, then you're always going to be closed off. You're never going to allow yourself to truly feel. I think that comes from just wanting to feel free. Just wanting to feel free and wanting to be able to express yourself at the highest level, at the deepest level, at the most genuine level.
Sure. And that's hard, bro, because I recently, and what I was getting at is after watching the way you were with Nakia and kind of that level of intimacy that you achieved because of your ability to be vulnerable, like, bro, when I'm with my girl now, shout out Torianne, I'll spit it all out. Like, if I'm feeling something, I'm saying it. And even to my friends now, it's like, if they're listening, bro, I'm telling them how I feel. And before, I wouldn't say that because I'm like, they don't care about my problems. But I realized from conversations with you too, it's like, if I say something and I vent about how I feel, even a dude, because I'm always like, guys don't care, they got their own shit. Even a fucking dude like you who has your own issues, like, you have good advice, you have things to say from experience. So if there's any lesson I think anybody can take away from this whole show is just the importance of vulnerability, and I think you were the exemplary example of that.
You know, I started off feeling like fear of failure.
Yeah.
And then the fear of failure quickly went to the fear of regret. And one thing about me is, like, I could go in a situation, not say how I feel, and that's going to eat me up on the inside. Or you can say how you feel, and you might get it wrong.
Right.
But at least it's not eating you up on the inside.
Regardless of how you do it, there's consequences.
Yep.
And if you're vulnerable, there's consequences because whatever. And then if you're not, there's consequences. But I guess my question for you is, what's the balance between, or how do you achieve balance between being vulnerable and sharing everything? Like, if you're in a situation with Nakia and something comes to your mind and you want to express to her how you feel, you're obviously still in that courting phase because you were just kind of getting to know her. So at what point are you giving too much, or are you saying too much to the point where she could then take advantage, or not even her specifically, but anybody, versus achieving that level of vulnerability? Like, how do you balance that? Like, do you just say, fuck it, I don't need to be mysterious? Or do you give people certain things? Does that make sense?
Yes. I think it's about all in who you decide to be vulnerable with.
The person, yeah.
I think when you are choosing to be vulnerable with people, you're also choosing them to, you're ushering them into your inner circle. You're accepting them in your life. Like, when I give out vulnerability, it's because I'm taking down my shield, I'm setting down my sword,
Letting them in.
and I'm letting them in. I'm not vulnerable with just anybody.
Got it.
But if I decide that you have a good heart, a good soul, and that you have met this criteria, that's you check this list, like, okay, this person has this. Sure. Okay, that's what it's going to take for you to be accepted in my life. Then I give you the vulnerability.
Got it.
But I think, you know, these things is like 5 minutes to learn, a lifetime to master, man.
Yeah, we're all going through it, bro. We're all trying to figure it out, for sure. That's interesting. So, obviously, you know, Collin is out, Greg is out. It's kind of coming down to you and Fernando at the end. There was that massage scene where he's a chiropractor, bro. He's good with his fucking hands.
I know.
Are you feeling threatened in that moment? Because I know you were like, I'm gonna give you 2 minutes. That's what you told him. Are you feeling threatened, or what's going through your mind?
You know the crazy thing about it? In that moment, just to give you a little peek into my mind, to my crazy mind.
Yeah.
I felt like her and I had such a deep connection by that point.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, you can give her a massage.
But that's not going to build.
What are we doing here? Like, I'm trying to build something real right now.
Yeah.
Why
and
are
you're
you
playing.
here?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's right, you know, but these are the moments that I'm someone who learns from experience too. So these are the moments that we go through, we look back on it. Okay, this is what I was thinking in this moment. Perhaps this is not the correct way to think and go about this.
Sure.
And I learned that.
Sure.
But I am truly and honestly not threatened or bothered at all at this moment. Like, being completely honest, I'm like, that's the type of confidence that I walk into that with.
Sure.
But it was a very uncomfortable situation. It was. I didn't know. I mean, I didn't know what to do. I'm like, here he is massaging her, like the girl that I'm falling for.
Yeah.
Like, it's just weird. It's uncomfortable, you know. I think he handled that well. I think he did well.
Yeah, Fernando, I feel like was funny enough. I knew him before the show, so I knew he was a hoe. Where he would turn up at Warwick, bro. He'd be getting hella bitches. Shout out Fernando. Yeah. Nah, but not to say he wasn't real in the show.
About that.
I'll say it. Not to. I love her. Like, not to say he didn't go in there and like wasn't falling for her. Like, I believe he was. I was surprised to see him.
It's hard not to.
Through till the end. So, did you ever think in the slightest that he might win that at the end?
I never, ever thought that he was gonna win that in the end. And that's not a slight at Fernando by any means, because I love Fernando. I think he's super dope.
Absolutely.
But our connection, it's like electric, dude. Like, it's so strong. Like, you'll see on the show, and they don't show all of it, but there were times when we're going through, it's almost like we're going through real relationship things while the competition is going.
It's that far beyond, like, yeah.
Yeah. And her and we connect on this very deep spiritual level. And that, it's one of those things that, it's an intangible thing. You can't see it, but you could feel it. And her and I could feel it together.
Sure.
And so I was never, I never really felt threatened by that. I did feel like she might leave the island alone.
Really?
Like, you know, yeah.
Well, if there wasn't a threat, right? Who was the biggest competition? Because Nakia did have a pretty strong kind of lineup at the end.
I think I always thought it would come down to Collin and I. I think him and I are like yin and yang.
For sure.
I think I always thought it was Collin and I. I know that Greg and her have somewhat of a connection. I know he made her feel very comfortable.
Sure.
But I also knew that it wasn't necessarily a romantic connection. So I always felt like at the end it would come down to Collin and I, and it didn't. But
did not.
Yeah, I felt like Collin was my biggest competition for sure.
Interesting. It was interesting to me because I remember there was that beach scene where he opened up to her about his relationship with his mom, and he ended up, he was crying, and I think she got rid of him the day after, like the elimination after. So if, from your perspective, if being vulnerable and being open to Nakia is important, why would she get rid of Collin if that's exactly what he did? It doesn't get more emotional than crying on the fucking beach, like.
You would have to ask her that question.
I think I know the answer.
What do you think?
She was thinking about you the whole time. It didn't matter who she was eliminating. It could have been anybody, because I think from fucking day one she knew it was you. Like, she didn't even have to go through. You could have just fucking went home, bro. Like,
I think so. I think so as well.
I think that's what it is.
I'm careful not to put
words in her mouth for sure. Yeah. I'm gonna have her on here. I'm gonna ask her that question. Cool. See what she says.
Cool.
Yeah. So, bro, at the end of the day, you did win this shit. Like, you obviously are the winner, and that's fucking amazing. At the mansplain, how are you feeling, bro? Because you got demolished.
You know what's crazy is I went into the mansplain to say this. This is why I went in there initially to say. I meant to say, even though this is a competition and it ain't a game, so all of you that are sitting on the opposite sides, you guys aren't losers. If it would have been a different girl, it's about a connection.
True.
If it had been a different girl, you might be sitting where I am right now.
Yeah.
So don't feel as though you guys are undesirable.
100%.
Don't feel as though you guys are lacking in any type of way.
For sure.
This is not, I'm better than you type deal.
No.
This is, I have a connection with this girl, and that's just the way that fate happened to play this one. And so that's initially how I went in feeling.
Yeah.
And that's what I had planned to say. And then they got under my skin a little bit.
That's almost your approach is about to be positive. Like
Yeah.
you're about to come in there and support the boys, but you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the truth, you know.
Yeah.
I don't want anyone to feel. That's why I don't like when people say that I won. Like, because when you win, there's got to be a loser as well.
True.
So I don't like to juxtapose those two things.
But you had the strongest connection.
I just
That's a
had
better way.
I just had the strongest connection with her.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna be honest, and believe this if you want, believe this if you don't want to, or whatever. I stopped seeing it as I got so deep in that spiral that I stopped seeing it as a competition. I remember one time, Chris, he said, "Oh, there's just $100,000 on the line." He mentioned that, and I remember we looking at each other like, "Oh yeah." They're like, we forgot about the money at some point. Yeah.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. So at the end of the day, at the mansplain, like you did get kind of wrecked.
I got wrecked.
Yeah, unfortunately. I feel like Greg and Collin definitely came at you, and they were saying something about like 1,500 bitches in the DMs.
Yeah, they said that.
So but your response to them about this was, I said it, or what you told Nakia was, I said it, but I was trying to get at something else. There wasn't like a period after that. So what were you, when you're saying that, what are you getting at, you know?
So when I was on the islands, I remember after my first date with Nakia, here's the thing about being on the island is a lot of times in your regular life, you have distractions and you have the ability to run away. Here you don't.
Yeah.
So when I first had my first date with Nakia, I kind of was tripping out. I was like, oh my God, I think I fucking like her. Like, holy shit. Like, I'm like, does she like me? Like, is she just like playing with me? Like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm like asking my producer on the way back, like, shout out to Devin. I'm like, yo,
shout out Devin
like,
in the building.
I'm like, bro, do you think she likes me? You know what I'm saying? And I remember after the first date, we got back in the whip and I was like, we was like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was really, I was feeling real happy about it. And, you get so in the matrix, so to speak, that you're asking yourself questions like, what does she mean when she says this? Because every time you get a chance to interact with her, it's from the moment you see her again, everything's going through your mind. So I created this like list, right? And I figured, I'm like, how do I figure out what it is that she feels, what it is that she means, and what it is that she's trying to say in all moments?
Yeah.
So what I figured is like, okay, there's what you say. There's what you mean. There's the foundation for where it comes from. And then there is what it means to you. So as long as you break that down into those 4 categories, you'll always know what it is that someone's trying to express to you. Because language is just a medium to express, right?
Yeah.
But oftentimes, we don't have the linguistic tools to properly express what we're trying to say. I mean, I think every person's been in a situation where you say something, you mean something, and then the person takes it in from their filter.
Yeah.
And it's like coming out with something different than you were trying to express. And
sure.
You're like, whoa, no.
Right.
So what I was trying to say at the mansplain is, look, Casey may have said this, but this is what he said. This is what he meant. The foundation of where it comes from is he's hurt in this moment. And what it means for you is Casey's hurt. He's lashing out. He really has feelings for you. And in this moment, he's lashing out. So what I was trying to say was, look, this is what I said. What I meant was this. The foundation of where it comes from is hurt. And building up when you're vulnerable, you're breaking down layers of yourself so that you can let somebody in. We have these walls, right? Wall here, wall here, wall here.
Yeah.
In order to intimately have a connection with someone, you have to break down first wall, break down second wall, break down third wall. So once you break down those walls, the reason why those walls are there is because you've been hurt in the past.
Sure.
So once you break down those walls, you're like it's like the wound is exposed. And so as soon as you see that you might get hurt again, build those walls. Come on, build those walls.
Sure.
And what I was looking to express to everyone was, look, like, a divisive maneuver is to take what someone says out of context and then feed it to someone and say, hey, look, this is what he's saying.
Sure.
And what I was attempting to do was, even though I said this, one thing I know for sure is that this is where I'm coming from. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah.
It does. And I think to the average person, they'll see it as, oh, he's saying he's going to have 1,500 girls in his DMs. But they're not looking at, why is he saying it? Where is it coming from? Like, no one's thinking that way.
It's really not even contextualized. Like, they're saying,
yeah.
Oh, like, you never heard me say that.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, it was like, you know, at that point, I think it was around episode 7 or 8.
Yeah.
And her and I had gotten to, she was very upset with me at the time. And we were going into elimination. And I was feeling it, bro. I was feeling it. I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, if she sends me off this island, I'm going to be heartbroken.
Yeah.
Like,
for
real. Like, I'm at the point where, am I going to be thinking about her for the rest of my life? Am I always going to be searching for her? You know, these thoughts go through your head.
Sure.
And initially what I came into the show for, if I had still wanted those things, I'd be good right now. I'm at episode 7, episode 8. I'm good.
Happy, yeah.
But now that I'm falling in love with Nakia, I cannot leave here without her. And so that's what I was looking to express. And this is let that be a lesson for me. This is part of the self-awareness and self-realization.
Sure.
And that's why that was my initial reason for coming, was to become a better person, for real.
Yeah.
And you know, self-realization and self-awareness, as long as you can expand your self-awareness, and as long as you can take an honest look at yourself, you'll always be in the position to better yourself. And so, yeah, like that's how I expressed it at the time. But what I really should have said was, damn, I'm feeling it right now. Hey, brother.
It's true.
It hurts.
It's true.
Men, we do that a lot, man. We do.
We do.
We try to mask something and make it sound cool. Like, we gonna try,
especially to the homies. Like,
especially to the homies,
because you don't want your boys to think like, oh, he's being a bitch. You know, like, you're just gonna say something
soft.
That's very reasonable. I think that makes a lot of sense.
That's what they mean when they say toxic masculinity. That toxicness. But one thing's for sure is, and you're on this path too. So you're a shining light. You're an example as well. If you know, if I can be vulnerable, and motherfuckers say, oh, he's vulnerable and it's still cool, then you're one more example that shedded that toxic masculinity.
Facts. Where
now you can serve as an example for other people, where they may look at it and say, okay, Divij, he's cool. Divij, he be making music. He got a podcast. look at his card. Divij is cool. And he's vulnerable.
I could be that too.
If he could be vulnerable, I could be vulnerable too.
Yeah.
That's so important.
I think so, man.
You hear my Michigan accent? I said important. Important.
No, you're 100% right, bro. We got a few more minutes, but I have some other questions I want to ask you. So at the end of the day, you have the strongest connection, and I think people may look at this show and be like, you know, he really didn't love her. Like, he was in love with her. But at the end of the day, you had the opportunity to choose the money or not choose the money.
Yep.
All right, and you didn't. You chose her.
Yep.
So I think that's like a clear. If people are still doubting you after listening to you and still not believing what you're saying, like, it's like you made a decision. That was a $50,000 decision. Like, you know, so it's at the end of the day, I believe you. People are gonna have their doubts, but people go lifetimes looking for love. For sure.
You might not find it in this lifetime. You might not find your twin flame in this lifetime. But one thing's for sure is you can always make money. Money's gonna come and go, but that love is never gonna come and go.
Amen.
So,
Amen.
I think Nakia and we connect on such a deep, deep level. When you meet your twin flame, you gonna walk up to her and y'all gonna be like, hi, and you're gonna be like, whoa. It's like this, like, electric connection.
Yeah.
You just know. And I know it's not easy to translate on screen. I know there was a lot that the audience didn't get to see, because remember, you have 2 months split into 45-minute episodes. So there's a lot y'all didn't get to see.
There's a lot of stuff.
Just leave it right there.
Yeah.
But
For sure.
I definitely 100%. The feelings were real, and I never. You put me in that situation 10 times, I'm picking her every single time.
Word. I believe it, bro. Like I really do believe it. I've talked to you after the show, and you know, I think like it's just how you feel, and that you're being honest. And I don't think you're one of the most honest people I know. And I think if you really didn't love her, you'd just be like, I don't fucking love her. Like there's no consequence for that.
100%.
You know, it's your life.
100%.
So you mentioned being an empath a few times. I didn't actually know what an empath was until Welcome mentioned it. And he told me that he felt like he was an empath. What do you consider being an empath, and how are you one?
An empath is somebody who. Empathy is when you feel somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Sympathy is where you feel sorry for somebody. So as an empath, I think empaths are created in the first in those ages 1 through 7.
Yeah. When
you're growing up and you may have situations where you really need to peep the temperature of your family life, where you really need to it's almost like a defense mechanism.
Sure.
Doesn't mean that you had a tumultuous upbringing or anything, but it's almost like a defense mechanism where you need to. This is why you see a lot of empaths are people who have had situations in their upbringing that are traumatic, situations that really require you to have to feel what's going on. It's like a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
And an empath is basically someone. So, for example, if somebody trips and falls right here and is hurt and their ankle hurts,
right,
I'm gonna look at that and be like, I don't want to look at that. Like,
actually,
yeah, oh yeah, I can't. When I see people hurt, the same thing on me feels hurt, and I know there's a lot of people watching that are watching this right now that are like, that's me.
Really,
that is an example of empathetic behavior. For me, it takes very, very little for me to feel and see the essence in somebody. I think the way that I interact and meet with people and the way that I see people, I see underneath the surface level of life's illusion. And that's a conversation for a whole nother time.
Sure.
But I feel people before I see people. I always say that the beauty in someone comes from the inside out. A lot of people, they look at aesthetics, they look at what things are.
Yeah.
I'm always looking and feeling at what's underneath the surface. So I feel people's emotions. I'm very sensitive to people. I can always tell how people feel. And the more empathetic you are, the more intuition you'll have about other people.
Yeah, for sure. Do you think being an empath affects your day-to-day communication-wise?
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, it can be draining.
Yeah. It
can be draining because you're always feeling other people's emotions. You're always seeing how they feel. A lot of times they can't hide things from you. It's actually something that you can turn on and turn off too. And I don't know if it's consciously you kind of can, but a lot of times empaths, because I'm not special in being an empath. This is something that we all have access to.
Sure. It's just if you tap into it or not. Maybe.
It's just if you tap into it or not. Yeah. And I think a lot of people turn it off because it can be so draining.
Sure.
So yeah.
Does being an empath at that level cloud the way that you feel with your emotions about what you're experiencing? Because if you're looking at other people around you and they're excited, you're getting excited, but maybe you're not really excited. You know what I mean? Like, how do you?
I think that question would have to be phrased in a different way for me to answer.
I got you. It's confusing. I feel like it's like, because if I'm around people that are fucking hyped or like super sad, but I'm in a great mood, like I don't feel like I'm going to be sad because they're sad. But it sounds like maybe that's something that you would in a way, which is interesting.
It's a tough thing to regulate, but as I said before, 5 minutes to learn and a lifetime to master.
Yeah, I mean, it's a practice thing.
I'm not a I am a flawed human being, brother.
Yeah, you're just a normal guy, bro, for sure. Why do you think you're so misunderstood? Because I feel like you really are misunderstood.
I think that the package that I come in, I'm an athletic. So you can only meet someone at the level that you can only understand something in someone else that you understand within yourself.
Yeah.
So me being so many different things, you might have the athlete that looks at me and says, okay, he's athlete.
For sure.
But not understand the empath part. You might have somebody who is a black man. Oh, okay, this is a black man. I know what it means to be a black man. But you might not understand another part of me.
Mhm.
So when you have so many different layers of who you are,
Yeah.
it takes somebody with equal amount of layers to truly understand who you are. And that's a tough thing. That's a tough thing. I do kind of get how people might look at me and feel some type of way because they only understand this part of me.
Sure.
And if they only see this part of me, then they're going to put me in this box of judgment, right? So, I think it just comes down to how much you understand yourself.
Do you think Nakia understands you?
I think Nakia understands me very much. I think you can't necessarily understand everything about someone because we are always a product of our experiences.
Yeah.
And so if somebody hasn't had the exact same experience as you, they'll never truly understand you. No one will ever understand you as much as you understand yourself, ever.
Yeah.
Besides God.
Speaking of God, leads me great into my next question. What when it comes to religion or like higher powers, what are your beliefs if you're able to share?
I believe that there is one energy that I think there's one underlying energy that permeates through and throughout the universe. It permeates through you. It permeates through I.
Yeah.
It permeates through every living and non-living being and entity, and that is the chief higher power that exists. And everything. There's so much I believe about it. I mean, this is a conversation. This is an hour conversation, okay?
Yeah, we gotta have you back.
But
bro.
I do believe there is one underlying energy that permeates through and throughout the universe, and we can find it within myself and yourself as well.
Yeah, for sure. God is complicating, and I think religion is also complicated because we're educated and we're taught certain things, and then you go into the real world and you go to church and you go to temple and you start. It gets confusing. We should definitely have another combo.
We start putting our human understanding on it.
Yeah.
And we live in a realm of duality, man. So, and absoluteness, and God is abundant, and God is beyond absolute concepts, beyond duality itself. So even when we put our minds on it,
yeah,
that's when things start getting. That's when you start getting. It's hard to describe God accurately from the ego. Put it that way.
Yeah, 100%. So look, bro, I mean, at the end of the day, you had obviously the strongest connection with Nakia, and by the end of the show, you guys were, it seemed to be in a good place. So how was that at the end for you?
It was, I was ecstatic. They don't show it around episode 2. I said, "You living here with me." That's how bad. I had wanted it. And shout out to Welcome. It's like every single night after we would talk, I would go back in the room and I'd be like, man, I need to leave with this guy.
Yeah.
I never felt like this about anyone before. And so when she chose me, man, I was so happy. I you see at the end, I try to
lit up.
I try to make her make it seem like I was, just for the show or whatever, but I was always gonna choose her, man.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. Like I said, you put me in a situation where it's love or money, I'm picking love every single time. Every single time.
I love that. Garrett's not.
Yeah.
That
boy Garrett is wild.
Yeah, he's a wild one for sure. Well, look, man, I appreciate you coming on. This has been great. If people don't follow you already, where can they find you?
OG Jared _ on Instagram, the OG Jared 2 E's on Snapchat, and I'm working on my other social media platforms. So go ahead and follow me on Instagram and can I get a little bit of love? Don't come with the negative stuff. We trying to heal the world out here.
For sure.
We trying to be positive, and we trying to promote mental health. And you know, I'm a positive spirit. I'm a loving, positive spirit. So come with the love, and I'm gonna come with the love back. You know.
Yeah, I think that's important. And one thing I will kind of end this with is, I know him personally. Like a lot of you guys don't. You're seeing what you see on TV. One of the nicest, kindest souls I've ever met in my life, and there's no need for the hatred. Like if there's gonna be any hatred, which I don't think there will be, I think people are gonna be very positive towards you, but like you don't know him at the end of the day, you know.
Namaste, for real.
Namaste. Well, thank you, bro. I appreciate you. Make sure you guys go follow OG Jared. Watch the show if you haven't watched it already. It's a fucking crazy show. By the end, you're gonna lose your shit. It's wild. But yeah, make sure you guys subscribe to the podcast. Follow me on Instagram. Follow Jared, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.
And thank you for having me on.
Thank you, bro.